of you, they will now proceed to their phase of research. So you did a lot of wonderful job. Yay, open your microphone, say thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Really well appreciated. Thank you for all your patience, for all the perseverance in guiding and teaching us. We really appreciate that. Once again, thank you so much and God bless.
We have our next speaker with us, Professor Dr. Aurelio Vilbar. We stay in the Philippines. He's also from the University of the Philippines, and he's from the Cebu campus, which I like very much because I'm a lot of times in Cebu, as you all know. He's from the Department of Faculty of Social Science, and he holds a PhD in Education, English Language Education. As a National Board Director for Language Teaching in the Philippines, he has led in organizations, local and international conferences, and teaching, training, and publications for research journals. He has taught in the Master of Education program on language education, research, and pedagogy, and has mentored MED students and teachers in research and professional developments. He designed and conducted volunteer training for public school teachers and students, and he also designed English language courseware for intercultural competence and sustainable development. He has presented research papers on computer and mobile assisted language learning, intercultural competence, education for sustainable development, and mother tongue based multilingual education to local and international conferences. And I think the publication list is much longer, so we keep it for that. And Aurelio, the floor is yours, and I hope to see you soon again in Cebu.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening and Guten Abend. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
guten
yes,
Abend.
I'm from the. Okay, so I'd like to share my screen. Give me some. So good evening, everybody, and I am from the University of the Philippines, Cebu, and this presentation is about e-service learning and how to continue or promote public service in the university despite during the pandemic. So I live in the island of Cebu, so we're in the middle of the Philippines, and during this time, I come from the office called Pahinangod. It's the volunteerism, and University of the Philippines is a national university where we hold public service to our country. Now, this island is called Santa Rosa or Olango Island. This is our partner community with UP Cebu. So we normally hold our free teacher training program in this island. And you can see one of my former graduate students conducting teacher professional development and how to do an action research. However, since we've been partner for more than 3 years, it was always every July that we held this type of volunteer program. But we had a pandemic last July and Cebu was really devastated. We were the epicenter of the virus in the Philippines for a while. And in as much as we wanted to help the island teachers, we could not do that because there was a lockdown and no face-to-face meetings were implemented by the government. And most of all, to go to that island, you need to use boat as the major transportation means. So it was impossible. So the solution I got was through e-service learning in my Master of Education course. It's called Instructional Materials Production. So these are my students. I asked their permission that I'll be using their picture in this presentation. Now, my class is Masters of Education, and we have a course called Instructional Materials Production. So it was a very good time because that island school wanted to have training on how to do production of materials in their action research. Consequently, my outcomes for this course is to produce sound instructional materials for a reading class or a writing class. So the needs of that community matched with my competencies. So it became our agreement. I told my class that we shall be having service learning or online service learning or e-service learning, which means instead of having a final exam for my class in which they would make materials for their students, they don't have to do it already for their students because my students during the course, 85% of them were from the Department of Education. And during the pandemic, the Department of Education provided them with all the necessary modules. Henceforth, it was not necessary for them to create their own materials. So, as our agreement, they would be coaching those teachers from the island school online on how to make their action research using reading remedial program. So my final exam for the class was their coaching of these teachers on how to produce reading remedial programs. I used the iPod instructional design. In this research, iPod stands for investigation, planning, action, reflection, demonstration. In the investigation, so I conducted a needs assessment together with the office. My office, once again, is called Ugnayan na Pahinangod, or volunteerism. So after we had our investigation, we found out that teachers were so interested to learn action research, but they had no experience on how to make one. What worsened the matter was we could not do it in a face-to-face. And we also know the fact that making research would be a very dry subject according to most literature. It's something that caused anxiety. After we investigated the needs, I had a planning. Planning refers to my integration of service learning to my students. Phase one, I have intensive training with these teachers on how to do an action research. And phase two, I asked them that, class, we shall be using e-service learning for this semester. All of them agreed. Now, action means the coaching, all the experiences they did with my class. Reflection, this would refers to the survey, the reflections, the focus group discussions I conducted to validate or to determine if, to what extent, the use of service learning really improved them in learning the course. Finally, demonstration. This would refer to the stage in which, after the teachers were taught by my graduate students on how to do reading remedial program, can they do it on their own? Can they do their action research? So in the iPod design, again, investigation, these were my beautiful students. Now, we wore red at that time because we had a theme in my class. It's no to red tagging. So we wore red and everybody agreed that they will be a part of the research that I conducted. And okay, next was the teachers. There were 12 teachers and there were 15 students in my class. So we grouped them into 4. Each group had different topics. One was game-based reading remedial program for these students. The other one was blended reading, the use of offline app and workbook program for grade 9 students, storybooks for grade 10 students, and one made translanguaging mathematics videos to let students understand about fractions and integers. So there were 4 groups, and each group had 3 to 4 deputy teachers and 3 to 4 graduate students. My research questions were the following. I'd like to know, what is the impact of online service learning or e-service learning on my students' course content, personal growth, and public service? Now, the framework I use is from Ash and Clayton, which according to him, if students do service learning, it would improve their personal growth, civic learning, and academic learning. Lots of studies show that students who volunteer are happier than those who do not volunteer. And students who volunteer have better grades than those who do not volunteer. And people who volunteer are happier and they live longer than those who never volunteered at all. So volunteerism is the best anti-aging cream. Next, what is the impact of the online service learning among those public school teachers that we help in terms of their skills and understanding research? Methodology, this was descriptive design. I used qualitative research for the interview, survey, reflections, and the online focus group discussion. Now, after all the meetings with my students, and this happened during the pandemic, that time in 2020, we started in August, and since we're having trimester, we ended in November. That was the height of this very high cases in Cebu, so everything was done online. Now, after they made all the resources, the materials, it underwent content validity, and it passed according to the Department of Education rubrics. All of them passed. Okay. In the demonstration, these were the sample materials created by my students in collaboration with the teachers of Olango Island, or the public school teachers. Again, it all passed. The materials all passed in terms of content, format, presentation, and organization, and technical quality, according to the 3 iterators, external validators. And we also did quality assurance. Now, this is an example of a pilot testing we did with the research. Now, the island at that time, sometime September 2020, had 0 cases. So it was okay to have house-to-house research as long as we asked permission from the government and the principal. So we can see students here validating the materials. This is also one of the teachers. Her name is Ma'am Elvira. She brought with her the pre-test for the students to answer. Okay, and now this is the pre-test and this is the post-test to determine if, to what extent the materials that they created would really impact their reading comprehension. Now, the office, UP Cebu Pahinungod, we help in the printing of the materials and we ship them to the island school. And this is one example of the many lessons. This is about billiards. And we have here one iconic billiard player. His name is Marta Reyes. And this talks about his short biography. After the students would read the information about Marta Reyes, they would use the skills like reading between the lines and identifying the vocabulary. And this is also another example. To promote gender fairness, we have a male and a female athlete. And this lesson about her talks about vocabulary like famous, interest, and joyous. Now, after we drafted the materials, the parents of these children, since they were minors, they had to get those materials in the school. This is one example. They fall in line and they would bring this home for their children to answer. It was a part of the protocol in my country. Now, evaluation. So after all the materials were created and the study was, okay, so for example, like teachers had those game-based materials, storybooks. They implemented that from December to February, and they conducted a pre-test and a post-test. And findings shows that 2 groups had significant improvement on their reading comprehension, while the other 2 groups did not yield so much difference with that. And when we asked, why do you think they learned? According to them, we loved the video. It was fun. One also said they liked the colors because the modules we had in the Philippines before were written in black and white. In this case, it was done in color. So colors really ignite the students' appreciation and motivation. Now, what are the findings? Now, after all the coaching, we asked the public school teachers, how do you feel? Do you think you learned from this? So we had reflection, open-ended surveys, and online focus group discussion. And findings show that they said they understood the content and how to do an action research. One said, I realized that in choosing a topic, it has to be something focusing on a current problem. One also said, oh, I'm inspired to take on this challenge to improve to give more possible solutions to the problems we have. And it created this reciprocity. My students were so inspired by the attitude of these public school teachers in helping the students to make an action research. On the other hand, these teachers were inspired by my students on how to continue sharing despite the pandemic. So it created this magic of helping each other, a ripple of inspiration from each other. What about my students? So I tallied all their reflections, their journals, and according to the findings, it developed their course content, personal growth, and civic involvement. Okay. Now, one of my students said, designing reading materials requires contextualization and needs analysis. They have to understand the culture of the people for them to create something really very good materials. 2 students said, service learning is learning with a purpose. I needed to master materials development because the community needed me. So they studied harder in the class because they know somebody needed them in spite there was pandemic. And one of this thing that I love most in the reflection said that this whole thing of helping other teachers was very positive to my mental health. The idea that somebody needed you during the pandemic made them feel really important, and it created a good impact for them. In terms of digital tools used in the telecollaboration, all of them answer this in terms of preference. They love Zoom. By the way, in August 2020, that was the first time we used Zoom. So Zoom was something really new to us, and it was used during the classes. They love Zoom because of the recording that can be shared, but it demanded too much bandwidth. So sometimes it would create problems to people living in the island because of this very weak signal. Second on the list is Facebook Messenger. They like Facebook because it's for instant messaging, and they would know if you will receive it or not because there's a seen button or a seen something, and it can be used even without any load or any data at all. So, and everybody had Facebook. Finally, they also think Google Meets is good, but among the three, they preferred Zoom and then Facebook Messenger. Findings of the study. Well, the students who use the modules claim that, oh, they love the remedial modules because they were attractive and clear and organized. And the DigVert teachers, the people that we helped, they said it was a good experience for them to learn about doing action research. And as a teacher, I would really say we'll have more e-service learning because it was found out to be effective in terms of learning the content, appreciating culture, and most of all, public service. And the bonus here, the teachers in the island that we helped, they made a research of that, and it was accepted in the Pan-Asian Consortium International Conference. So that really validated if we made the right thing or not. It was because of this acceptance. And finally, I'd like to share to you, how did we do it?
Okay, yeah, come in because I think you're so good with the art. Okay. Joe, what can you help? How can you help the program?
We'll work with storybooks, or I will help them how to lay out.
Okay, thank you. And Mai, what about you, Mai?
Sir, I'll be with the workbooks, game-based workbooks.
Okay, so again, you will be mentoring these teachers on Zoom, and there's a breakout session. So I'll be grouping into 4 groups. So each department will based on your experience and competency. So
Karon, mag-drills na ninyo para mas masabtan nato ang atong lesson. Andam na ba mo? Tara! Muhatag ko og number, unya i-determine ninyo kung kini ba kay rational number, pwede fraction, decimal o integer, o irrational number. Number 1, 12.
Result of our pilot testing and our first mentors, Ma'am Gina and the group. So the first one is the instructional. So far, all the results of the survey was good.
The under frustration level. Na I realized po, not only sa, I talk so much, sorry. Plan sila, musabot. It's more like ganahan sila translation. Yeah, dili ba ya na siya advisable in translation method?
Because of you, they will now proceed to their phase of research. So you did a lot of wonderful job. Yay, open your microphone, say thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mentoring the Santa Rosa teachers have brought so much of a good impact in our lives. We're in the middle of pandemic. I can't help but take pride on what we have achieved together.
The e-service learning we did with the Santa Rosa National High School teachers was, first, it's challenging because for the first time, everything was done online. From choosing the stories to include, to making the activities, and to finalizing the layout. Second, it's also fulfilling because we know that what we're doing would not only benefit ourselves, not only the Santa Rosa teachers, but especially the kids of Santa Rosa. And third, I find it enjoyable because I enjoy the layouting process.
It was not just for us to show what we have, but to realize how much we have learned and how far we can share those learnings to others.
Chance to help Santa Rosa teachers to create their own language materials for their students.
To our mentors, thank you so much for extending your help despite of your very hectic schedule. You still managed to assess and quality check our work.
Is really well appreciated. Thank you for all your patience, for all the perseverance in guiding and teaching us. We really appreciate that. Once again, thank you so much and God bless.
Okay, so that ends the presentation. Thank you very much, Donkey Shen. You're muted, Dr. Marcus.
Thank you so much for the presentation from Cebu. I hope to see you in person soon again.
Yes,
Looking
sure.
every day when we can fly. Some of you know that my wife is from Cebu and she's listening, and Aurelio, it's so great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also the video, my God, they all love you. I follow you on Facebook and you are a great guy. I really was very thankful of having you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.